gets up and running, I'm pretty sure she's going to get a lot of input, because people are
Oh,
tired. People are
Hi
tired.
there. Y'all
okay.
there?
Hi,
Yes.
yes.
Hey, I'm so girl, I was having
Hello.
serious connection problems. I'm trying to see if I'm recording it now. Hold on.
Okay, yes.
No, I guess I am. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad y'all there. How are y'all?
Oh,
Doing fine
My
yourself.
I'm doing just fine. I couldn't get my stupid record. I don't know. I guess I'm having a bad connection down here on my computer, so I finally had to get in on my phone. So I apologize for my lateness, y'all.
no
But
problem.
I was trying to, as we know, doing the My Voice Matters meeting, and I was trying to schedule you guys to have a nice conversation today. So y'all seem like y'all met each other.
Yes, yes. We
Oh, well, that's
introduced
good.
ourselves.
That's good. Okay, then we'll and where y'all can pick up where y'all started off at if you like, because I know y'all was talking.
No, we were just introducing ourselves and just kind of getting a little background as to, what is needed and where we are as
Right,
far as just having a voice, period, that, will be out there.
right. Well, have y'all seen the latest news? With just Trump and his feeling like the world is okay with him being in charge. What y'all think about that?
You really don't want me to go there.
Yeah, I want
Okay,
you to go
okay.
there. I want you to go there. We got 50 minutes, so you go right ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a scenario, okay? And in this scenario, it's got a list of points that we need to mark down, right?
Uh-huh.
And in this scenario is you have a narcissistic spoiled child, right? And he's very vengeful. And
Uh-huh.
so you something my mother told me was you don't beat a dog and then turn around and give him the stick. And so when we put that person back in office, we gave him the stick. And now he's retaliating. And if you notice, which is ironic, immigration and education, Trump is German by nature. His parents are German.
Yep.
Elon Elon Musk is South African.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So who's the immigrants really? You know what I mean? Who's the illegal aliens, as you want to say? So,
Right.
but the agenda is they're trying to erase the
Uh-huh.
current the current status of the United States. If they
Right.
get into education, which I was doing some research on, if they get into education, they're trying to determine what is being taught in the schools. So
Mhm.
how can you clean up your history unless you erase your history?
Right. Right.
And that's part of it. And then the birth program, that's not a new program that a lot of people don't know. It's actually instituted in Japan. It's been instituted in Australia over 50 years now. But
Mm.
what it was it was to assist new parents that was having children because they
Mhm.
found out that the workforce depleted 10% overall when people had children because they
Mhm.
had to stay home, take care of the kids. And so that's where the financial aspect came into it. But
Mhm.
in this particular situation, we're trying to preserve a certain race. Okay.
Mhm.
So the only way I can do that, I have to be in control. I have to be in control who lives, who dies, which we would call abortion, who can have children and who cannot, which we call
Mhm.
birthing. You understand? And
Mhm.
also who qualifies because I set the standard. So if you put the uh your pros and cons or just put an itemized list, you see he is trying to, and this came from Elon Musk. He's trying to
Mm.
create the most intelligent race, which happens to be of Caucasian.
Mm.
Yes. So all these policies is the foundation for that very same thing.
Mhm.
And as far as when he first got in and he dismantled the oversight committee, which is the committee that uh makes sure that you follow constitutional law.
Right.
Right? Okay. If anyone know the history of Putin, that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
This is why he's in office and stays in office as long as he is now. So
Mhm.
those things is, you know, quite the kept he idolized Putin because he's a
Yeah. Yeah.
dictator. Yeah, he's a dictator himself. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, and you know, so it's nothing new as far as what he's trying to do, but what's new is the way they're trying to sell it to the public. You know,
Right.
Mhm.
yeah.
Right.
And so anything, like I said, if you start documenting all the rules and regulations that they're trying to do, from the education to the parental guidance to even your Medicaid, your WIC, and guarantee who, you know. Now, let's say you did take away the WIC program or food stamps, you can only buy fresh vegetables and certain things because they're trying to nullify that part too, where you couldn't even buy a bag of potato chips or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, honestly, how many of us live in neighborhoods where we get fresh produce in our stores?
There you
That
go.
is,
Right.
you understand what I'm saying? So
Uh-huh.
I don't have to disqualify you. You just don't qualify because you don't have the means in the first place.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a process of revamping the United States. And if you're not of a certain color or of a certain descent, I don't think there's going to be a place for you. Other than,
Mhm.
other than, now when you get rid of the education system, what do you put in this place? Okay,
Mm.
we cry about minimum wage. We cry about, like you said, black jobs. You know,
Mhm.
black jobs is the ones that's out there picking out the oranges, the so-called, you know, the immigrants was doing. Okay, so if we
Mhm.
get rid of them, what's going to be your next job? What's going to be the only job offered to you? Because
Mhm.
if he set the criteria on what you qualify for any government program, I can put it where you could never qualify just on history alone. We have a lot of single mothers, single parents. So if you're not married, you don't qualify.
Mm.
And yeah, and yeah. So I was reading into a few of these policies that it does. So it's a
Mhm.
way of saying, you know, as an African American, we know or ourselves have some type of blemish in our past.
All right.
They can use that blemish to disqualify us automatically.
Mm.
Yeah. And what I would say is that it's we as people we follow trends
Yes.
and patterns, and it's not like we haven't been here before. In fact, we've had some worse leaders that Black people have been able to have fought through. Now, of course, the method, because I know, I mean, they changed, like you said, it's the way that they are selling it to the public. So the method or the way in which they are deceiving us,
Implemented.
they're
Yeah.
just using different tactics, but it's the same old playbook. And as far as Black,
Exactly.
not like we haven't been here before under worse circumstances. So I
Yes.
know
Right.
the difference now. Auntie knows I'm very particular about this. I do believe participating and having an understanding about what's happening in your area makes a difference. I like I always like to say, I like to have conversations. It's good to know what's going on because, like you said, if you don't know your past, you don't know where you're headed in the future, etc. But I do like to focus on uh, solution driven. So I like to say, okay, we know what's happening, but what are we going to do about it? And I
Correct.
know, as Auntie has pointed out, is that one of our best, our best recourse is our voice. And I do believe that persistence breaks resistance. I truly do believe that. And so I think that, and I mean, again, these are not, again, this is just not something we have not seen before. They've done this in many different ways
True.
in the past. And so, like I said, the only the only way I know is to through education, and no one needs permission for education nowadays. You have libraries and so much information. You have a phone at your fingertips that you could, get information from. You could be educated, and then participating.
Right.
Participating in these smaller elections, understanding who your council members are, what
Mhm.
seats they're on,
Yeah,
what committee they're currently on, and
Right.
um, and so, I mean, that'll be my only recourse right now because unfortunately, we do not have control over the House or the Senate. So let's be
no,
realistic that it's going to be very difficult for us to do anything right at this very moment, except, again,
exactly,
participate in those smaller elections and be sure to see if we can try to turn this around during midterms. And I'll
exactly.
tell you one good news, though. Did y'all see how Canada elected that the liberal? I was so
Yes,
Yeah.
excited about that. That was a good
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
win. That was a
yeah,
good win for us. So we're very they rejected Trump totally. So very excited about that. There is hope. So keep
Right.
on
and
doing that.
and
Right.
that's
Right.
that's a wonderful thing because it says that the people spoke up.
Yeah.
That was the key. The people spoke up. And see,
Mhm.
this, like you said, we in the age of information. There's really no reason for people not to know. A
Mhm.
lot of people know, but you've been turning your head. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It don't exist if you don't see it. No,
Oh
but
yeah.
see, this is the a good form. See, because you have to reach them where their heart is. Why do you
Right.
think TikTok and Facebook are so popular? Everybody's on TikTok and Facebook. Whatever they're
Mhm.
posting, these trends, whatever. Okay, well, let's get information on these TikTok trends. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Right.
Just
Right.
like the information that I was talking about, we can put that in the format. Hey,
Right.
consider
Mhm.
this, you know what I mean? Or have you heard or whatever,
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
hard part is, that was the turning point when government got into the homes by discipline not telling us how to discipline our children.
Oh
Right.
Except,
yeah.
yeah, that broke the home up right there. The parent could
Mhm.
no longer be the parent. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
now the child felt that they had a weapon against the parent. I'm gonna call
Right.
911. Exactly. So now
Mhm.
we get back to that, to
Mhm.
Hmm.
being the parent. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
we have parents out here that they're no better off than their children sometimes. You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean? Yeah, because they refuse to use what tools they have. Now, if I can ask, I can ask somebody, walk down the street because I do that just spontaneously. Did you see this on Facebook? And I don't even use Facebook, honestly.
Yeah.
I just asked them, and they say, "Yeah." I said, "Well, did you see this on the news?" No. Why?
Mhm.
You get it?
Hmm.
Really? Okay.
Oh
Mhm.
And so, as an advocate and as a believer, I started telling pastors, this is how you're going to get to these kids. You're going to have to get on Facebook. You're
Mhm.
going to have to hit them where their heart is. You know what I mean? I'm not
Mhm.
telling you to get up there and throw some music or whatever, whatever. But this is the only way you can meet the masses where they are
Right.
because this is the tool of the day. And
yep.
so we have to use these tools. And just like she was talking about preventative, we can start setting a foundation now for the next 3 years. Because
Right.
Father kept, when Trump lost, he's starting a foundation for the next election. He
Right.
knew when he lost, he moved people out, moved people in. Oh, I'm getting in next time. I don't care if I have 1,000,000 records, a
Mhm.
1,000 convictions. I'm getting in because it ain't matter. It's not gonna matter because once I get in, I'm a part myself.
Yep. Yep.
And,
I mean, and
yeah,
not to mention the Supreme Court saying that basically whatever he does
yeah,
under duty, he won't he
yeah,
can't be held accountable. But so
yeah,
yeah. But as you said, that was all set up. I do agree. I will say I try to tell everyone to just be patient with us.
yeah,
We're the first generations that were born free. We are
yes,
60
Mhm.
years, 60 years outside of Jim Crow. And so black
Right.
people have done an amazing job. And like I always say, you're correct that it may seem like sometimes you're talking to a brick wall, but you have to remember, and I have to remember to be patient with us, is that
sure,
there's never been a more oppressed group on this earth than black
period,
people. Still are.
period.
So I'll say just be patient with us. I do feel like at the end of the day, Harriet Tubman, she knew this very well as well. Not everybody's going to be able to go, and we're okay with that. We just need
Yeah,
the ones that are and want to go, ready.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
try to be
Right.
for my community. I try not to, and again, just as a reminder, black people and black men showed up and showed out because
yeah,
I have to be a part of the 92%. 92% of
yeah.
black women
Mhm.
showed up and then the 80%. So don't ever let them lie and tell you that we're not out here doing it. That's a lie.
Oh
They
yeah,
Right.
will tell
exactly.
you the stories of how our ancestors fought and overcame. They'll never
Yeah,
tell you those battles that we had. Why? Because it does nothing for them. But
no,
days where don't ever think that we're not fighting because we are and we always have been and we've always been alongside each other. The difference is we
Right.
don't control the narrative. That's the only difference. Right now we don't
that's
control.
it. That's
Um,
it.
I think we are always black people, especially black women. We've always had to carry the weight of the world. I mean, honestly.
Oh,
Um,
honestly, truly, truly, and I'm a firm believer because the African American black person is the only race that is hated by every other race, including themselves.
including
Yeah,
themselves. That self hate is real.
including themselves. You
Self hate
understand
is
what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
that
So
was tough.
yeah,
Mhm.
so you
Mhm.
know you powerful. If you can endure that and still hold your head up or succeed, you better understand the power that you have,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
Right.
time to institute that power. You know what I
That's
Right.
mean?
true.
Yeah, and
Right.
so I'm with you. It's going to be a battle, but what changes have never come without a battle?
There
Right.
you go.
And
There
the
Right.
you go.
same thing, and in reference to the Jim Crow law, because I do my great grandkids. Now I don't do my. You know why I don't do my grandkids? Because
Right.
if you understand the history of the Bible, not getting biblical,
Mhm.
Moses lived in Pharaoh's house from time he was 0 to 40, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
And so after he was put out of Pharaoh's house, put in the wilderness, he was in the wilderness for 40 years. Right.
Hmm.
Okay. And then after he went into the wilderness and he found God, he was with God for another 40 years. So
Mhm.
we've passed that 400-year mark of going backwards with the Jim Crow law.
Right.
We're getting it out of our kids now. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
They don't even know the impact that it had upon them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But
Right.
what I'm saying is, when you go down a one-way street, it's going to take you that same amount of time to get back to that path and get back on the right path. So that's where the patience come in. I do have
Absolutely.
patience. Yes, I have patience because I know, like I used to tell my child, I may not see it in my lifetime, but you'll see it in yours. That
Right.
change is going to come because that 400 years has passed since the Jim
Mhm.
Crow, exactly. So the more that we get out there, my son's on several boards, including urban development, and
Mhm.
we push hard. We push hard. And quietly kept at least three of those boards. He's the only dark thing in the room. But I
Mhm.
told him to be the most boisterous thing in that room. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
But not just boisterous, factual. You know what
Right.
I mean? You know,
Fact matter.
yes. One the guy he tried to be smart with me. We were talking like he said, hey, uh, I guess you believe God created man from the dust, right? I said I have
Mhm.
no choice. So you believe God created you first. I said, well, I kind of go by facts. He said, what facts? I've never seen white dirt. You get me? We want to go. Yeah. So tell me where you got the white dirt from. You understand what I'm saying? But
Uh,
it's those type of myths and things we have to bust, even in the way we view each other. Because light skin was preferred over dark skin. The black person was the bad sheep of the family. There's a lot of stigmas that we have to break amongst ourselves.
right.
Then we can come together, and then, oh man, we will be powerful because truly we are the backbone of the United States. Truly,
Mhm.
truly.
Mhm.
So these voices will resonate, like I said, and you'll be
Right.
surprised at the amount of, I don't want to say sympathy, but understanding. Do you know the reason that there were so many Caucasians in the Black Lives Matter movement?
Mhm.
That was the first time many of them saw a man get his life taken from him so flagrantly. They heard about it, but it was
Right.
witnessed. Exactly. So if we get information out there, some of them
Mhm.
will stand on our side. You know what I mean? Because justice will get done, but at the same time, we're fighting ourselves more than we're fighting them, and that's a difficult road, very difficult.
That's why I said that I can kind of respectfully disagree that our people have never stopped working. That is something they want you to believe. Like I always say, is that we've been called lazy ever since we stopped working for free. But let's
Oh
keep it.
yeah,
Black people have always been together. We even married during slavery. So I do not believe that our people have a fight against each other any more or less than anyone else. However, we are put on the spotlight. Typically, if you study statistics and other different types of statistical math, you understand that it makes sense that you would harm someone within your community because of probability. These are people
yes,
within your community, so the
oh,
likelihood
definitely,
of you
definitely,
harming or something else, so another is so white on white crime and black on black crime are equal in terms
yes,
of because again it's in your they're in your proximity, and so I believe that because mental health is very important, and I believe that if they make you feel defeated already, then yeah, you won't do.
you lost. Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
won't do it. You'll give up. So I do not believe our people have ever started fighting. And again, it was evident in this past election with 92% of Black women showing up. It is evident in all of the data with Black women holding the most degrees of all
yes,
groups in America. Black women
yes.
specifically
Oh,
hold the most
definitely.
degrees. It is evident in our in economics as far as again so anyway, again, just because someone says something or puts out a certain, narrative about us doesn't make it true. It's not backed by data. Our people have always held each other. We have always had each other's back. And again, like I feel like it hurts now, yes, of course. But it's not like we haven't been here before. We really have, and we've been under worse circumstances. And so we can get through this, being educated, remaining together, because I believe we've always been in unity. We are not a monolith. We are not a
Right.
monolith. Say, no, we do not all think the same. No, we do not, whatever. I'm not religious particularly.
Correct.
I do not
Yeah,
believe in God or Jesus or anything like that. And I don't
yeah.
follow anyone who doesn't. I don't care.
No,
This is
that's
America,
yeah.
right?
That
Be
has
who, but me myself personally, I do not. But
Yeah, that has no bearing on choice. That has
yeah,
no bearing. You know what I mean? Your personal beliefs are your personal beliefs. As long as you're not trying to push them upon me, we're okay. You,
Right.
that's the thing. We're okay. And that
and
was one of the things that, as far as that was going to be tried to reintroduce the Pledge of Allegiance back into the school system. You know what I mean? That
oh yeah,
indoctrination ceremony. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I understand the geographical as far as the statistical as far as crime on crime, black on white, black on black. What I was trying to illustrate was because we were taught that our lives were so flagrantly or not as important. You understand what I'm saying? It made
Mhm.
it easy. And so and the bad thing about, like I said, the Jim Crow and slavery was we had to learn, our parents had to learn to let go of us because they had no choice. You understand what I'm saying? And so that brought sort of a disconnect that bond should be reassured. You know what I mean? It is easy for us. We don't fall apart when we say our parents are getting a divorce. You understand what I'm
right.
saying? We don't fall apart. You see them ready to jump out the window. Oh, my mom, my daddy, oh, da, 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 da. Because we never had that issue. We had to get used to our parents not being there
Right.
because is what our parents went through, their parents went through. You get attached to your child and somebody come take your child to sell them. So there was a certain amount of protection that you had to be detached in order to help yourself. But it
Mhm.
kind of resonated with us. You know what I mean? So it made
Mhm.
it easy for us to detach ourselves from each other,
Mhm.
because of the
Mhm.
mindset, you know.
Mhm.
And that's what I teach about now. Hey, that was not normal. That's not a normal response. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be easy for you to tell your brother to kiss your behind and not talk to him for the next. That's your brother. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? If you don't know how to work out your common your disagreements, then how you gonna function with anybody else if the person that you so called love or bonded to, you can't even work this out? You know, and so
Right.
that's when I was saying I did the sport parkway, those were my targets and the mental health. I got rid of the stigma of, hey, don't talk about it. Don't tell what's going on in your house. Black people don't go to doctor. Come on now. We need help. However it comes, you know what I mean? We need help. There are issues that we were told to swallow that is erupting now because we swallow so much. And so,
Mhm.
yes, I understand, like we all have different positions that we can take, but we're fighting for the same goal.
That's it.
Right.
We've
Yeah.
always understood that about each other, and I just don't want us to get caught up in a narrative that we don't do each other or blaming each other. And oh, black people, they just won't get right. That's a lie. And we
That's
have
right.
Right.
and we have never stopped fighting, which is why we're still here. The Native Americans were almost totally wiped out. We are
Yes.
still
Mhm.
here, and so
Yeah.
that says a lot about who we are. Black excellence is real, and so with this situation, like I said, with Trump, it doesn't bother me. I'm not afraid.
No.
I feel like, now don't get me wrong. I mean, we know that there are going to be programs that they are taking from us, but again, it's not like they have not done this before. And and like I said, I think the best we can do is arm ourselves educationally, and be sure to show up and show out whenever
Yeah.
necessary. Because you know what, we have very low turnout for local
Yes.
elections, and which is very heartbreaking because these are the ones that matter.
That's
Right.
More
right.
votes on things like that, I think, is like what I would see.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
on
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
for these
And that's
local
it.
elections.
Like you said, the if there's a slogan I had, it's called healthy community, right? And if you
Mhm.
spell the words out, healthy, HEALTHY, right? Community. Heal, HEALTHY. Heal that community. Then you have a healthy community. You get me? And so
Mhm.
I don't, I have members that, did you see what Trump said? I don't care because anything he does to me, it's not in my best interest. So I'm
Mhm.
not going to stress over what he's trying to do, what he's going to do, because I'm going to fight. I'm going to maintain my focus and my direction no matter what obstacles in front of me. You know what I mean? It's okay. And that is the hype that scares people. Oh, he's going to do this and going to do that. You know what? He couldn't do nothing unless y'all put him in there. It was you that didn't go and put your local representative in there. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because that's how they get in through electoral votes by the people that you put in your lower offices. Okay.
Right.
So don't get mad when, oh, well, I didn't think it was okay that they wasn't doing nothing. Oh, but now you're crying. You see what I'm saying? So if we understand, if we can start in the community level, getting communities to get together. That's what it used to be. We used to know who our neighbor was. Now you
Mhm.
scared to, I don't know who lived next door to me, down the street. You know what I mean? But
Right.
that's yeah. And so those are the bases that we lost. And I think those are the bases that I'm pushing to get back to. Then you
Mhm.
would have a unionized voice of more than one. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that voice can speak loud because that voice is the one that go to your grocery store. That's the one that go to your gas station. So if I start participating or patronizing you, you don't listen to me. You understand what I'm saying? Because that was the only way that the Black Lives Matter movement got attention. It started affecting their pockets. Other
Mhm.
than that, oh, it was nothing until they started affecting their pockets and they started tearing up places of business that affected big pockets. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? And so,
Right.
yeah, those, we are the strongest people in the world. We just don't utilize it. We truly
And
Yeah,
are.
see, that's why I wanted people to understand how important their voices are because you got to speak out. People sit back and they kitchens and in their
Yeah.
bedrooms and complain. It's like get out there and speak up about what you believe in. Get people to understand. It's hard to swallow some of the stuff that we see out here. When we feel um, because it's every race and every category
Yeah.
of the political world. It's black people in MAGA, it's black people in
Yeah.
Republican, Democrat, Independent, and I just thought while trying to do this that maybe we can hear each other's voices and try to come to some kind of agreement or understanding where people can understand why you feel the way you do, or is it anything better we could do to improve different things in each of our communities. And so I just want people to understand it's good and bad in every relationship. I mean, every
Yeah.
nationality. It's just the way
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean because you're black you're bad. Like I was saying, you can't go in the shower and wash off who you are and paint on who somebody wants you to be. You can only be
Exactly.
who you are, and don't be afraid of that. So when I was being approached out there telling people what I was gonna do, I get the, oh, you're bold, you're this, you're that, and it's like, but it's a good thing, and I was like, yes. I said, I'm trying to do something positive for everybody, not trying to make it look like I'm just after the black people or after
No.
going against the
No.
MAGA people. I'm trying to bring including everybody into having their voice and letting them know that our voice is our power. And without our, that's just the way it is. We can be private in our votes, but
Yeah.
you can't let our voice be that way. We have
No.
to stand up and stand out and speak up. And be heard. And so
And
that's
be
why,
heard.
I'm keeping on, with this because I think it's something positive that everybody can gain from if you just listen. It's okay to listen to other people, and understand where their hardship may be, or even the ones that agree with this. Help us understand why you feel that way because, we all not going to get what we want all the time, but just remember the little folks when, people like Trump get in office or,
Yeah.
Republicans get
Yeah.
in office. Remember that it's somebody out there that's not unable to work, or have hardship in their family that they need the federal government for, and don't just paint them as losers or lazy
Losers.
or
Exactly.
it,
Exactly.
because that's not necessarily the case. So
No. No. No.
I can't advocate this enough that I just feel like I said, that's where our power is in our voices. And as soon as we realize that, I think people will step out a little bit more. I'm hoping so anyway. That they would speak up a little bit more and especially African Americans. You know, um, we tend to kind of draw back sometime, and I don't want them to draw back too much. It's okay for to feel defeated. But get on back up there. Don't give up. It's still hope.
And that was one of the things that I told you I had put on a program for all people in decision making process, including at that time Senator Mike Parson. I had rented the what was the name of this down in the Ozarks. It was
Mhm,
I rented the hotel. I mean
mhm,
secured the area. I had every person in every aspect of what I would call our life, from medical to judicial to whatever.
mhm,
And I had put on the front of my brochures a Caucasian woman, right?
mhm,
And then when I got up and introduced myself, they were flabbergasted. But at the end of that program, I never had as many questions as I ever had in my life. You know
mhm,
why? Because the information.
mhm,
A lot of people base their decisions or base their life on misinformation. You know what I
mhm,
mean? And so we live by, like I told them, there's a difference in protocol and procedure. You've been proceeding this way for a long time, but that's not what protocol dictate. You know what I mean? And
mhm,
so the same way with us, just because your location don't determine your intellect. Everybody
Right.
got something, some type of in some type of experience or whatever
Mhm.
that they can share that
Mhm.
they can tell them. And like I said, the basis is, my thing was what gave you what sequence of events that led you to make these type of decisions? Was it
Mhm.
influence from your parents, lack of parents, grandparents, friends, you know? And so I started knocking down some of the misinformation without directing it at anybody because
Mhm.
quite the kept, we all experience life experiences one way or the other.
Mhm.
How you interpret it is a different thing, but it's the same effect. If I lost
Mhm.
a dog and you lost a rock, it don't determine how much love my dog and how much you love that rock. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It could
Mhm.
be just as devastating. And so that was the things that I was putting into effect was, okay, if this happened to you, how would you respond? And if this happened to you, how would you respond? Male, female, young, elderly, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Why, what made you think this was an appropriate response? Not saying it wasn't good or bad, but how did you come to that? And then we can kind of weed out okay, this, no, we look at our parents as our first gods, our first role models, right? But if my mama didn't know, she couldn't teach me what she didn't know. And that's been my philosophy through life. I
Right.
tell my people all the time, if I don't know, you need to find out. Because there's
Right.
certain things that, I didn't know. All I heard all my life, get a job and life will be fine. It didn't tell me nothing
Mhm.
about racism, bias. It didn't tell me nothing about relationships. It said get a job and life was okay. When I got
Right.
a job, I got more headaches. You understand what I'm saying? I got more headaches. Yeah, yeah. Don't let me take my hat off. Yeah, because I'm wondering when life gonna get good. Hey, I'm
Right.
working every day, but
Right.
I'm paying these taxes. I'm living from check to check. When is life gonna get good? So it was those type of things that I pinpointed on my thing. What
Mhm.
type of information are we giving each other, and what type of projection are we projecting our kids? I went
Mhm.
down to the prison and I was visiting some prisoners, and I saw guys come up there, and their kids came to visit them, and they had jewelry and stuff on, stuff like this. And so
Mhm.
I pulled a couple of them off. I said, "Man, do you know that you give your child the impression that you do better in here than you are out there? You look gooder in here than you did out there." What
Right.
you think he's going to think? You know what I mean? So it was
Mhm.
like that. That come on, we need to see how much we do play a role. We are
Right.
role models to somebody. We just
Right.
need to know how do we affect them and make sure that we're affecting them, sending out positive vibes, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because of the misinformation that we had, we have to correct ourselves. And in this day and time of cell phones and stuff like there is no reason not to find out. None. None.
Yeah.
Well, I would ask you then, because again, I'm a solutions driven based person.
All right.
What are your thoughts on the many successful Black communities that we've had in the past, and your
Uh-huh.
but also what do we do from there? The reason why I say that is because um, people forget that we had some of the most successful businesses, first successful businesses, including the most successful black business, or excuse me, banks in the
Yes.
with Black Wall Street, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Places. But so my question is, what are your thoughts on that? As far as where do we go wrong? How do we prevent it? The reason why I'm saying this is because it speaks directly to your point about learning and understanding the past. Because again, the WIC program and many different programs that you see today were from the work of my ancestors, including
Right.
Venezuela. So we have never stopped fighting. We are the face of fighting, sadly, but it's the truth. So my real thoughts are, okay, I don't. I'm gonna be real. I do not feel like unity is a problem with Black people at all. Do not believe that's a thing that's a part of our community. White people, yes. Black people, not at all. Are we a monolith? No, which means that we're not gonna all think the same, feel the same, etc.
Exactly. I understand.
We have always showed up, and history has taught us that. So my thoughts are, what happened? We know exactly what happened, but I'm asking, what happened? And how do we prevent it in the future? Because it's easy to say, oh, we need to do this, we need to do this. It's like I said, it's always easier said, done than said, or excuse me, said than done. And so I look at that and say, where do we go wrong? How come we can't replicate that in today, like in real life? I do know the answers, but I'm asking you,
For
Right.
solution.
for me, we went wrong when we started allowing media to dictate the terms. When I say the terms, we took media as to be the gospel, right?
Mhm.
And when I say the gospel is whatever came across there, we formed an opinion. You ever watch TV and if you see that when they're viewing, like, let's say the war, for instance, right? When they showed the war, they'll show you dead bodies of other people, right? But you don't see that here in the United States on TV. They won't show you the dead body. It's called desensitizing, right? And so through media, we have learned to desensitize ourselves and to think that we as a group cannot come together and get along. You understand what I'm saying? Or to build anything. I wrote the Nike Foundation when Michael Jordan first signed with Nike. And I told him, you knew they was going to target African Americans with these tennis shoes, right? That's when the first killing of a pair of shoes came. I said, was it worth it? Was it really worth
Mhm.
it? Was it really worth it? I got kicked out of the NAACP, excuse my friend, because I said, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have y'all give adulation to people that are successful. I need them to come to my neighborhood and tell me their success story. You know what I mean? I need them to come to my program and tell me their success story. You know what I mean? You spent $2.3 billion when the Essence Awards and giving adulation to people that have made it. Now, what if we had put that money in a pool and got people that is struggling or, like I said, uh, learning how to come together as a people is the biggest obstacle that we have because we're taught to be what to say, look out for number one. Look out for number one. That was the biggest thing. And then the second biggest thing they did to desensitize the person was say, join the army and become somebody. In the back of my mind, you telling me I'm nobody right now. So those type of subliminal messages did take effect. We see it on TV. The African American's first one to die. So we figure his life is flagrant. I'm not going to get as much time if I was to take your life than I would one of theirs. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't press. I don't give him the same amount of uh what's the word I'm looking for? The same amount of adulation I do had he been another color. I had to tell my mama just because he's white and said it don't make it true. She told me they were gonna kill me a long time ago. Boy, you ain't gonna let it be 18. Why? Because I challenged everything. You know what I mean? Just because he said it didn't make it true in my eyes. You know what I mean? And I didn't understand that, but I had to listen to my mama and listen to the fear that she came up under coming up. You know what I mean? My mother was they had tried to rape my mother when she was
Mhm.
a child. And my uncle, which she only had one brother, one sister, they tried to stop him. And they put him on the train tracks and killed him. And they was going to kill my mother. So this is how we come up to Kansas City was to save my mother's life. See, I never knew that. So we really need to get back to talking to our children. How was culture passed on? It was children involvement. Now, I'm gonna give you a tablet and you go over there in the corner and do what you want to do. I guarantee these kids know more songs at the age of 3 than I did when I was 30. You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We have to, hey, seriously, we got to hit them where they are.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? We
Mhm.
got to hit them where they are.
Mhm.
And then we can bring that group back together and
Right.
have that one voice, that commonality.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that's why I say media has a lot to do with it. That's all. You
Right,
know.
I agree with you partially in some ways because I do believe it. Now, just to let you go a little background, I was a
Yeah.
part of the source of income. I was the face of that on the news with the mayor, meeting with the mayors and the legislators to pass source of income discrimination in Kansas City, which they're currently fighting. But whatever. The point is that,
Right. Yeah.
and
I know.
so,
I'm keeping up with that. Yeah.
yep. So I was the face of that, and I was a part of writing getting writing the bill, helping putting certain language inside of the bill. So I'm reversed with that. So what I would say is that you are correct that media does play a huge part, but I will also say that access
Yes.
is a huge part. Access is number one because let's be 100% honest. Like for example, with the food stamp thing you brought up, where you were saying that they're trying to ban us being able to buy
Yeah.
unhealthy foods, whatever. But like you said, it is not about black people just want to be
Yeah.
want to
On
be
who?
unhealthy. I think
Yeah.
that we're just like every other person on this planet. We want the best for our children, just like everyone else does. But access makes the
Access.
difference. So again, my
That's right.
goal is how do we expand access, economic opportunity, and so that's what I'm working on. And so education is one piece. Again, it seems like every and then so every what they say you know it's every time black people create something they create a counterpart, and I think that's what our issue is. And so beyond media, like seriously, we have our lived experiences which resonates with us more than what someone's telling us on TV. Our lived
Definitely.
experience and what we
Yeah.
experience. And so I don't think that black people has ever lost that ever. What I look at is that as it stands right now, we do have some white allies, but let's be 100%, they are not at full capacity because if they were, we wouldn't be losing rights. I have less rights than my parents did 50 years
Exactly.
ago.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
and so and so I think that that's why I keep saying that I'm a solutions based person because I'm saying that you are correct. These things are happening. You are correct that but then what do we do? And for
But
me,
exactly.
I do educating yourselves as far as what's going on around you and participating in these local elections do make the difference. Um, I will say that you know I think that black people have tried for a very long time to become a part of the system rather than dismantling the system
There
because
you
it was
go.
work for
There
us.
you go.
We will be spinning our wheels. That's my personal opinion on it. We will continue to spin our wheels unless we
Yeah.
recognize that the system has to be totally dismantled from the bottom up. And so I don't think it's anything that black people have done, that young people
No.
have done. Or I mean, that has nothing.
No.
There's nothing to do with it because again, my people are the only people on this planet that has prospered despite what they've gone through, and we've gone through more than any other group of people on
Any
this
other.
planet.
Any
So
other. Yes. I
our
agree
black people, our black
1,000%.
men, our black children, they're exposed to so much, and it may not be so much as about like being desensitized. I can tell you from my experience, again, my lived experience, it's not being desensitized. It is prioritizing. You are overwhelmed with so much information, so many things happening at once that as a human person and even just to survive, you have to kind of prioritize and streamline, what's important right now and what's not. So it may come out probably as desensitized, being desensitized, but not so much. And so I'm on the point of dismantling the system because I do not believe that we'll be able to be successful within the system because it was never designed for us. Never. They didn't have black people in mind when they wrote the
That,
Constitution. When they didn't,
that,
they never had us in mind. And so, you know,
and when I said that I put on this program, man, I was hoping I was close. There was not one African American in I had invited. You know why? Because you're exactly right. How can you say that you know right from wrong, good or bad, if you're part of a system that was set up to oppress somebody and you feel that it's okay because what they say is my job? Really? Okay. So where does your morals and ethics fit in on your job? And so that was the biggest, when I said I got to, after the program was over, people was coming to me, they coming under the table. Like, I don't want nobody to know I'm talking to you, but, I really thought I was doing the right thing. I said, yes, but you don't understand what the system was built to do in the first place. So why that's what we need to start doing. Like you said, we need to break that system down because it was built wrong from the beginning. From the beginning. So I'm 100%. And so that's what I was targeting the people in decision making processes. How can you make a decision about my life when the whole system you said is for me to fail? You understand what I'm saying? Period. So no decision you make can be good. None. I don't care if you gave me $100,000, it's still not good because the system is wrong. And so, yeah, I'm 100% for that. And that's quite the clip. I'm gonna tell you something. My son, he he's his father's child. He's a global executive. He goes over to other countries and he sets up information systems for them. He's in the UK right now. He had just left South Africa. And he makes sure that they understand that where he is was the hardest road he had to travel, period. And he made sure to understand the roadblocks that he was up against to get to the position that he does. I said, so give them a little bit about your background because for them, some doors were already open. I'm gonna tell you, I said, I told this guy, when he told me, he said, man, me and you cool. I said, you know what? I said, the worst thing you can see is a white person in jail because the laws was built for them. So you really don't know what you do. You
They
really
had a
don't understand
400
it.
years. They had a 400-year head start, and they
Yeah.
still complain about DEI. That just tells you who you are. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that
Oh, no
tells you the
problem.
power that we hold as a people. So please don't ever forget that. Don't allow them to defeat you mentally by telling you that you don't have unity. That you, I don't believe any of that rhetoric that they
No,
feel
no.
about our people. I know my people. I know our community. Look at us today. It is only
Yeah.
brown people that I see on this video. And so we have never stopped fighting. And I would refuse to believe that. I'm 36 years old, so I'm like a part of the younger generation, as far as And
But
but we have unity. And so please, like I think the biggest thing is I don't want our black people to get tired or to feel like we're defeated in any way. We have always been
right,
fighting, and
right.
the and so but again, I feel like we it's important for us to dismantle this system because black people have always done their black job, and we get set back because again we haven't dismantled the system.
Exactly.
You just
Exactly.
changed a couple of policies, but you didn't dismantle the system. So,
No,
and so
no.
I'm focused on how can we dismantle the system? What is
Mhm.
the route, and can we repeat this and duplicate this in different communities so that they can adopt this same type of. And like I said, the only way I tell my children right now, the only way that I see out is through education. Because if you look back, look at over the
That's it.
many 400 years, the Frederick Douglass and the Board versus the
Brown versus Board of
Brown versus
Education.
Board of
Yeah,
Education,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so forth and so on was born. What was we were able to move that goalpost through education, through
Thank you.
education, and
Thank you.
protect. So,
And see, I take inspiration from people like that. Thurgood Marshall. You know, my I even, I studied, I believe, like I said, I'm a believer. James Cone wrote a book called Theory of a Black Jesus.
uh-huh.
If the, you would think it has nothing to do with Jesus as far as the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, Spirit. It's about a black man being oppressed from years and years ago. You understand what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
it blew them away as to how he presented this book because he said Jesus is going through the same oppression we're going through right now. You know what I mean? This how long this has been going on, and it's so systematic, and it's
Yeah,
such
yeah,
it can't change until we bring it to face value. Bring it to the surface. You know what I mean? Let's bring these systems to the surface. So that's what I have been trying to do, challenge certain systems. You know what I mean? Why was this system implemented? And what made it good? Tell me what made
absolutely,
it good. Exactly.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that was one of the things I used when we were fighting to get source of income discrimination banned in Kansas City, which we were
Yeah.
successful. And what we used was, like you said, lived experience. So you have data, but then you also have lived experiences.
That's
Um,
it.
and it's because data can be skewed. But what we know is that these are this is the same type of rhetoric that they used to redline us and to push us and force us into communities, force us into
Yes.
what we said was last resort type of landlords, etc. So
Right.
so
Right.
I believe that truth telling is one of the, be honest about what's
Yeah.
going on. Uh, you know, be honest about what's going on, be truthful, don't stop telling the truth. And I do truly believe that persistence breaks resistance. And as Auntie said, Carrie, that letting our voice be heard and never stopping and never shutting up is why we
That's
got
right.
where we were today. And
That's
I
it.
think that as likely we will continue to do that. And I will never let anybody tell me in any way that my
Mm.
people have stopped fighting or that we need to get with. That's a lie. You can never make me believe that because I've seen the
Yeah.
results of what black people do when we stick together. This past election
Hmm.
showed us exactly how black people show up for each other and how black men show up for each other, regardless
Yeah.
of what the media tells you. I don't care what nobody says.
Exactly.
Nobody
I
can
know.
say
I know.
black
Believe
girl, this
me.
don't care. You a lie because the election showed that. Now again, the system is what stopped us. But to lie
Yeah.
and say that my people have never been steadfast, look at Target.
Yeah.
Target said they were removing their DEI, and what did we do? Just that same old we boycotting because, like you
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
white people or the ruling class are horse to money is what we say in our community, or horse to money. So they follow the money, and so black people understood that very quickly. And so
Yeah.
using our black dollars I think absolutely makes a difference, but also dismantling the system because we've used our black dollars in the past. It has worked, but it was not sustainable. It was not long term because we did not dismantle the system that created the
Exactly.
conditions that we were fighting for in the first place. You see what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so
Oh
my
yeah.
thoughts
Definitely.
on changing the system is participating and not just like voting is when I say participating. I mean electing those leaders, those black leaders, electing those people who and being behind them 100%,
And
who could change
behind them and also holding them accountable too.
and holding
Right.
accountable.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real here. Nobody
Yeah.
has ever corrected Christopher Columbus. Let's be real here.
That,
White people
thank
can lie about almost anything, and the other white people will have their back. Black
yeah.
people, if I
Uh,
misspeak, they're down my back. Girl, I don't trust her.
see,
She,
but
whatever the case is. So I'm with my people, right or wrong. Let's keep it 100% until we get out of
yeah.
this. I'm with my
Yeah.
people because again, these people celebrate a liar, a person who
Yeah.
they know was a liar and was deceitful. They're behind him, so I'm behind my people, right or wrong.
I mean, yeah, and you know you see it every day. They glamorize, like
Yeah.
Bonnie and Clyde, Crooks, Scarface, a #1 movie, and now you got all these kids thinking, "Oh, I'm a gangster." You know what I mean? They glamorize the wrong thing, and so I tell you, when I wrote President Obama because the NFL was going to go on strike, right? I said it's not fair, for if you look at a football game, baseball game, you see $1 billion on that field, $50 million a year contracts. But my child can't get a 1 cent raise for tax to go to school. You understand what I'm saying? We need to
Mhm.
refocus our priorities. You know what I mean? I said, so all this takes place, exactly. And that's why I said, when I was saying about my son, he is my front runner. You know what I mean? I'm getting him into doors I couldn't get into. You understand
Right.
what I'm saying? And I said, now once you in that door, you got to make sure that you put this wedge in there so that another one like you can come through there. And that's what he
Right.
does. You understand what I'm
That's what
saying?
I believe. I
Yeah,
That's
homeschool.
a good thing.
I am a firm believer. It is hard. I'm poor because of it, but I am a firm believer in making sure that my children have more than just the education that the government is willing to give them.
thank
Because
you.
again, you have data and you have lived experiences. Those are two separate things, but they are very true. You can't argue someone's lived experiences, just like with religion. That's the reason why, because someone's
Yeah,
lived experience, you can't argue with that. And so,
no,
but they go hand in hand. And so, no, I'm with you. I feel like honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. I 100% know that a lot of what
yeah,
they're gonna do is gonna pass. It's gonna, the Medicaid and
yeah,
Medicare that
yeah,
will go through. The
yeah,
dismantling of the Department of Education will go through. But I don't feel like
yes.
it's gonna be a road for Black people because one thing about us that we have always been in this fight, and I believe we will
That's
stay
and
in
see,
this fight.
yeah,
I'm gonna stay
and
in it.
and see, honestly,
Okay.
it, I'm sorry. but honestly, it's a good and bad thing because it's going to force us to get ourselves together if they take away all those programs. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't fear it in the sense that, okay, we're going to drop off of the face of the earth. Now we will have to come together and help each other out because we don't have these programs that some of them debilitated us because we got dependent upon it. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? So, yeah,
Right.
so let's be honest.
Well,
Look,
they didn't benefit us, to be honest with you. Like DEI, the Department of Education, other than you should look up the statistics if you haven't already. But DEI did not benefit Black people
no,
whatsoever. In fact, they
no,
benefited us at 3%. 3%
three
white
percent.
were the largest beneficiaries of DEI and other programs. So to be real with you, they have never benefited us anyway. So losing
No,
them would make a difference for us. We've had to
that,
force our way into spaces for years, and we've always done that.
thank you. Thank you. I
Right.
just had my
Right.
niece do the same thing. She's a financier, and so I asked her to do a statistics on people on Section 8, which they try. It's 78% them on Section 8. You understand what I'm saying?
Thank
So,
you.
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no. See, I'm a numbers guy too now. I'm going to tell
I
you, I'm a
know
numbers
that's right. Well, facts
numbers guy.
matter because you can't. People understand facts more than a lie. I mean,
There
we
you
have
go.
to spew. We have
Yeah,
to tell the facts. That's for sure because it
yeah.
confuses people when you don't be factual in what you're saying. But y'all, we down to like 5 minutes, and I just
Oh,
want y'all to figure out, is it anything that y'all think that, or you all think that we could do to benefit more of just all communities and people of color, and because it's black, white, and all indifferent that are struggling, what we could do to kind of, um help resolve some of these issues. Speaking out more, I know, is one. What else do you think?
I said I was in agreement with community engagement. Again, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This may sound cliche, but I think
Mm-hmm.
doing exactly what we have always done, maybe tweaking it a bit, adding in more
Right.
community. And I'm going to be honest with you on one point. I really don't care about any other community than my own, not out of
Mm-hmm.
selfishness, not out of racism, but I'm going to give you this kind of scenario, this parallel that someone gave
Mm-hmm.
me. If I come, I call the fire department because my home is on fire. The fireman gets there and he's talking about the home next door. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
My home is what's on fire. So when I look
right.
at what's going on, it is black people who are under fire. In fact, the wage gap is insane. So it is
Yeah.
my
Mm-hmm.
people who I am focused on personally. I'm not saying whatsoever that other communities do not matter, but right now this house is on fire. This
Right.
house is on fire. I can worry about the other house later. It would be insane for someone to say, well, what about my home when their home is
Mm-hmm.
not on fire? So for right
Right.
now, I can only be focused on black issues and issues that affect my black community and in fact, we are the least respected and the most disrespected in this country. So those are who I'm focusing on. Like I tell my children, as soon as we get an even playing field, we good. I'm not racist. I
Yeah.
love all people, but
No.
right now
Yeah.
I am
But
focused
no.
on black babies, black bodies only. So with that
Right.
being said, as our community is concerned, I'm not lying when I say continue doing exactly what we're doing, amplified though. We've always
Right.
boycotted. We've always participated. This is why we are where we are today, where you and I can speak. We can speak freely about our opinions. We're not a
Mm-hmm.
slaves, etc. Those because of the fights
Exactly.
that our ancestors
Right.
had. So I say continue doing that. Persistence breaks resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Persistence breaks resistance.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's what
good. Let's keep speaking out. What you say, Tyrone?
I'm 100%. People don't understand the word between bias and prejudice. I'm biased towards black. I have no problem admitting that. Doesn't mean I dislike the other races, but I favor mine. You understand what I'm saying? And
Uh-huh.
so, like she said, I'll need to start within my community because
Mhm.
when I was saying hold me accountable, these are the people I'm gonna bump into at the grocery store. These are the people I'm
Mhm.
gonna bump into at the gas station. So if we all on board, we kind of, can keep each other up, so to speak.
Right.
Like it says in the Bible, do not forsake the congregation. All that means is be around like-minded people so you can build
Mhm.
each other up.
Right.
So that's the first thing. When it said charity start at home,
mm,
there you go. There you go.
facts,
Well, you
facts, facts.
guys. we have definitely had a good conversation. You know, that's why I put y'all two on here because and Michelle, she couldn't come today, but she was like she was trying to help something with my mom, but she
Uh-huh.
definitely wanted to be a part of this because I was like, I need people, every voice matter, of course, but I knew you guys would have a different, just different perspectives.
Yes,
And that's
yes,
what we have to do is sit back and get each other's views and come together and speak about this. And I am so happy that at least both of y'all was here because I was like, this is gonna be a good conversation. But we
definitely,
gotta do
definitely.
it. We
Power
can
to the
hey,
people, people,
I
black
look at it
power,
like
power to the people.
I
And I like your passion. I really like your passion.
I
See, I'm gonna tell you something, and I'm gonna let this go. I have 13 grandchildren, all boys, between
mhm,
18 and 24. I made them put a fund together that they
mhm,
cannot touch because I'm trying to build generational wealth. That's something that
mhm.
we don't have. So
No.
your babies and so whatever the government do,
Mhm.
every 10% of your paycheck go in here. If it can go in the church, you can put 10% in here too. You understand what I'm
Right,
saying? So
right,
you need
right.
to invest in yourself. But at the
Yes.
same time, they know that their pawpaw is passionate about getting stuff done. My
All right.
kids will tell you, they'll tell me, Daddy, if you're that passionate, you better do something about it. Because
Mm.
that's what I taught them. You understand what I'm
And
saying? So
right.
yes,
And that's
that
exactly
passion.
what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm doing. Because I feel passionate about it. I'm like, I ain't gonna let that cold day stop me.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep on pushing. So we
Uh-huh.
gotta,
Uh-huh.
we, we gotta do another Zoom meeting, y'all. I mean, honestly, I would love to do at least one a week, and maybe we can get more people to, join
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Because that's how it all spreads around. So we can
Yeah.
I can get with you guys at another time, later on this week we can figure out another time, we can schedule another one and we can keep this going on because I'm telling you, I like that y'all have plenty to say. And like I said, we can get other people joined into this and I done
And
updated my Zoom where we can talk as long as we want this time. So,
I
but
know
I just
that's
gotta
right.
go. I gotta get
And,
the grandkids. Huh? Go
and
ahead.
but see, I'm gonna tell you something. That's a
Mm-hmm.
key right there. You want different people from different ages and different walks of life,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, African Americans,
Mm-hmm.
because if they can give us some insight as to their mindset. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? How can I reach them other
Mm-hmm.
than me taking away their telephone? You understand what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
I don't want to use discipline as a way of attention. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But if
Mm-hmm.
they feel they have a voice at the same time, they may see things that we don't,
Yes.
because
Yes.
they've been exposed to a lot more. I told them half the stuff they going through, I never went through as a child. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so this is also helping mental health wise.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
So yeah, the more the variety, the passionate the person. Oh, I'm 1,000% for that one. You know.
Hey,
Well, I tell you, if we can do this again, I don't know what day y'all like to do it on, but like I said, I could put out on the social medias, like on my website or whatever, the time we're gonna do this again and open it up for anybody to just join in if they want to join in because it is important. It is important to get different people's aspect, and try to come to something where we can get through this. 'Cause
Exactly.
it's gonna be a long 4 years.
Exactly.
oh,
Really.
yes. And I'm with John Lewis. One of my mottos is getting into necessary trouble. I am
Right.
so that is my whole life. Necessary trouble sometimes is necessary, and I'm ready and
Child,
I'm willing.
But
child,
it's good though. It's good trouble
I,
though.
I've been fighting that good fight for all my life. I'm 67. I've been fighting that good fight all my life. I've
And that's
gotten
why
fired off a job. I'm
and that's
serious.
why I
I've
got
gotten
y'all
fired.
here right now.
Me
That's
too.
exactly
Yeah.
why y'all two are here right now because I know your passion. So, but I'm gonna let
Yes,
y'all go. I
ma'am.
gotta go get my 8 granddaughters. No,
Hey,
7.
woo!
Yes,
I
I
don't.
got granddaughters. You got grandsons. So,
But you know what was funny? I'm gonna say this and let you go. I
okay.
had two boys, before I met Margaret, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so didn't have girls because I was hard on my sister. I didn't allow them to have boyfriends until they graduated high school. They couldn't stand, they hated me, but now they understand me. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying now? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I met Margaret, she got 4 girls that had girls. I said, "Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
a whole woo! It's a whole big old difference." It's
Oh
not.
yes. Oh
Yes,
yes, it
man.
is.
Woo.
But I'm gonna get back with y'all and we're gonna schedule another one of these because I really enjoyed this. I really do, and I appreciate y'all joining in on this. And I will get back with you to schedule another one.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you,
def-
Auntie. The,
thank you.
Okay.
get my
No.
voice heard. Thank you.
Oh no, honey,
All
we got
right.
more of you to hear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like her passion. Have a good one.
Yes, yes. So we're gonna do this again, but I'll get back with y'all though.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.